Ananda here, peaceful living in chaotic times. Welcome. This channel is everything to do with sovereignty. So today we're going to talk about the difference between the public sector and the private sector. I am a private citizen, although I do have public concerns, that which compels me to come out here and share information with you on a public platform. I have been ordained by God, as you have been ordained by God, to have dominion over the land, the air, and the water. We recognize the land, the air, and the water to be different jurisdictions. God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. That gives us dominion over all things because we are godly people ordained by God. So, as a private woman, a private citizen, I can go ahead and enter into the public sector whenever I choose for God's work and God's highest will. For thy will be done. As I surrender myself to God's highest plan for me or my highest dharma, fulfilling my highest destiny, I sometimes will need to be in the public sector to communicate various things about what it means to live in the private sector or what it means to live in the public sector. Now, when we go down to we the people and the meaning of the term public, when the founding fathers created the Constitution and they referred to we the people and the body public, they were referring to the people, the body public in the people, the collective of the people out in modern society of that time. But we know now that a corporation was created that captured the words United States of America and then turned them into a corporation called United States Inc., all caps, all capital letters. And that corporation has used the word public to get us to believe that we're talking about we the people, when in actuality, their meaning of the word public is something different because public law is owned by a private corporation. I'm going to say that again. This is in the eyes of the Admiralty Law jurisdiction. In the corporation known as U.S. Inc., they see public very differently than we the people of America see it. So we the people of America see the public as the body of people that are affected by laws, rules, codes, and things going on in the world. And basically outside of your home. When you're going to the market or you're engaging in commerce, you're in public. Okay. And sometimes the meaning can go across jurisdictions. So when you're looking at the corporation and they use the word public for their meanings in their rule book in the corporation, in the Admiralty Law jurisdiction, we recognize that their public law is owned by a private corporation called Unidroit. Unidroit, Unidroit, all caps. Unidroit is owned by the Vatican. Unidroit receives, I think it's $250,000 or $350,000 a year for the commercial use of the word public law. This is how I understand it. I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't give medical advice. Okay? But I'm sharing with you how I understand it and the research I've done. And please feel free to continue on and add to the comments. What did you find about Unidroit? What did you learn about the difference between public law in the private corporation and public law, meaning the body public, we the people? Okay, so the public sector as I understand it, and these are my opinions and how I view it, it's very different than the private sector. So the public sector, when you enter into the public, you're engaging in commerce. It's pretty simple. You're using public roadways, and that can be the corporation can claim jurisdiction over those roadways until we come in and say, you're not allowed to because lower law must yield to higher law. But the common public roadways are for everyone to enjoy, whether you're a private citizen or a public citizen. The public roadways are for everyone to enjoy. And when you're engaging in commerce, you're in the public sector. Just know the corporation will assume jurisdiction over you when you're out there. It's basically like, hold your breath, you're going in, because anytime you're out in the world, if you're flying commercially, if you're at the grocery store, going to the market, what have you, you could easily get caught in the net of the public common agreement that this is a big game of commerce and you're playing in it. So you have to be very careful so you don't get caught in their web. Now, the players in the corporate admiralty law jurisdiction are not allowed to go fishing, but they do. So you don't want to get caught in one of their nets. They're really not supposed to go fishing. They're really only supposed to act if there's a true crime that has been committed. But if there's been no victim and no one's been harmed, no person or their property has been harmed, then there's been no crime committed. So what's happening? Oh, the fictitious powers that want to be are making up crimes to make it look like there's been a crime so they can collect revenue, so they can collect on their fictitious charges and fines. They're just making stuff up. Anyway, you probably already know much of this already, and I'm just ranting, but I want you to really kind of get the difference between the public sector and the private sector. Now, I'm a private woman. I live in the private sector. I have private trust accounts. Whenever you put anything into trust, it's in the private sector. Okay? So if you have a public bank account, you would be using things like a driver license, a social security card, and the like. Now, some banks will require that, and there's really no way to get out of it. But then you can go ahead and sign up in the public sector, but then you write an affidavit, declaration of decree, to support your entering into the public sector, where you're always retaining all rights. You're always retaining your higher jurisdiction. Because I'm a private woman, but sometimes I need to engage in the public sector to be able to live and use the public roadways and fly commercially. But just because I'm doing all those things, it doesn't mean that I'm agreeing that I'm chattel property and that they can traffic me like a ward of the state, because I'm not a ward of the state. But the more we develop our standing and we use these lawful affidavits and we verify our signature, qualify our signature. You can qualify your signature in different ways by simply elegantly writing all rights reserved, because we always reserve all rights as the men and women and beautiful godly offspring of God Almighty. We declare and decree that which we are. And we declare and decree that we reserve all rights at all times, under all circumstances. And I love you, and I hope that this helps a little bit. We do a deep dive workshop into the private sector, and we do those about 4 times a year. So make sure to stay tuned and visit us at americansinaction.info if you want to learn more about how to enter into the private sector, how to put your valuables and your private property into trust so that it can be protected both lawfully, legally, and you can literally remain in the private sector where your rights are always retained and reserved. Love you.